Self-defense in Canada, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. When seconds count, the police are just minutes away. That's a saying popular among gun rights advocates. It's also plainly true. In the nation's capital, if you call police, you'll get a response in an average of 8.9 minutes. In Toronto, the average response time for Priority 1 calls is 10.6 minutes. Calgary, though, does a lot better, 6.9 minutes to respond to calls. And you know what? That's their target. What can happen to you in 7 minutes? Quite a bit, actually. Well, that's 2 pop songs on the radio, if you want to count it that way. If you strip out the commercials, it's a third of the average time of a sitcom on TV. 7 minutes is a good response time in the police world. Now, if you live in major cities, you might get that. If you live outside of town, if you live in the rural areas of Canada, well, you can expect a much longer response time. Why am I bringing this up? It's simple. Self-defense. Self-defense for people like Ian Thompson, a man who has had threats on his life, a man who continues to face threats to his life, but who also knows that it's actually dangerous to defend yourself. Now, I want to say that it's tough to come out on a day like today when there is another mass shooting in the United States and call for greater leeway for Canadians to be able to defend themselves. But Canada is not the United States, and mass shootings, even the U.S., are rare. That's why they make news. If they were as common as traffic accidents, they wouldn't lead the newscasts. But even before today's shooting, the Plan wants to speak with Ian about his case because of a new development in the ongoing ordeal that began in the summer of 2010. That's when 4 men began firebombing his house while yelling that they would kill him. Last week, one of the men convicted in this case, Randy Weaver, was released. Weaver not only has a long record of violence, including armed robbery, home invasion, and arson, he admitted to taking $5,000 to lead the attack against Thompson. Weaver was released from prison last week. He was only sentenced at the beginning of last December. At that time, Justice David Harris ordered Weaver to spend another 2 years in jail. That was on top of the 29 months already spent in custody. He was also sentenced to 2 years in jail for having his face covered during the attack and another 6 months for breach of probation. So let's go over that again with some math. Weaver was given 2 years for the arson attack, on top of the 29 months he spent in jail. He was given 2 years for wearing a mask during the attack and 6 months for breaking probation. So how on earth can this man, one with a rap sheet as long as your arm, be out now? He was sentenced December 3rd, 2012, but released on September 12, 2013. Well, first of all, those sentences were made by Justice Harris. They were to be served out concurrently, not consecutively. 2 years for the arson, 2 years for wearing the mask. To most people, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but in the Canadian justice system, 2 plus 2 equals 2. Is Ian Thompson's life now under greater threat? I would argue yes. If it was your life hanging in the balance, what would you think of having Randy Weaver or somebody else out there coming after you? If it was someone who took money to burn you alive inside of your home and they were released so soon after the attack, and that person had a lifetime record of violent crime, would you feel less safe? Because I know that I would. So the question is, should Ian Thompson be able to be allowed to carry his firearm for self-defense? If you remember Ian's story, he is a former firearms instructor. He's a veteran. He fired warning shots at Weaver and his accomplices as they were firebombing him. He could have killed them. Very easily, he could have shot and killed them. He didn't. He showed restraint. And in return, he faced a legal ordeal that lasted almost as long as Weaver's. He was charged with a raft of firearms offenses. Some of them were dropped, but he faced prosecution until he was acquitted last January. So now Thompson, who at best would need to wait 10 to 20 minutes for police to arrive, but most likely 20, well, he lives in a rural area, he's asked for an authorization to carry his firearm with him. In much of the United States, it's commonly called the concealed carry permit. And if he lived in the U.S., it would be granted. In Canada, that's highly unlikely. In Canada, we're not allowed to use firearms for self-defense, not even when people are putting contracts out on our lives. We're supposed to simply call the police, and as the police in Peterborough said last week when we talked about self-defense there, we're supposed to run away. You don't need to believe in the wholesale adoption of the American gun laws, the American gun culture, to know that someone like Ian Thompson should be allowed to carry a firearm to defend himself. The justice system has let him down. They let him down when they couldn't keep Randy Weaver locked up on previous violent charges. Then not doing that allowed him to become the ringleader in attacking Thompson. And then they let Thompson down again last week when they let Weaver go. They let him go free without having served his full sentence. Now Ian Thompson is being told that he should rely on the same justice system, the same police and the courts that have let him down. It's not what I would want for myself or my family. Thompson should be granted the permit. And that's the byline.
Hello, it's the Niagara Regional Police calling Ian. Just calling to let you know that it's still going to be another hour or so before we can get out to see you. If you have any questions, please call us back at 905-688-4111, but we'll be there as soon as we can. And I apologize for the delay.
Another hour before we can get out to see you. Maybe in Ian Thompson's case, when seconds count, police are only an hour or two away. Ian Thompson joins us now from our Toronto studio. Ian, that's an unbelievable message from the police. Was that message from when the original firebombing happened, or tell us the background of that clip?
No, actually, that was after the firebombing. My neighbor is under conditions of release. He's pending a court trial right now, and he was trespassing onto my property. I called the police to get some assistance from them because I had caught him on video trespassing and damaging, and at the end of the day, they didn't lay any charges. So
this goes back to what I was saying in the monologue, though, is that you are someone who has had threats made on their life. You are someone who has been attacked. And when you've got a neighbor who has threatened you, and we'll get to that tape in a minute, coming around your property, the police say, it'll be another hour. So how long was it between when you called and when they called back to say it'll be another hour?
It was about 40 minutes or so.
So, you know, it's only an hour and 40 minutes away if somebody comes onto your property before the Niagara Regional Police will show up. I want to play a bit of tape, and this is from a good few years ago now, and I want to warn people that, and apologize, the language is colorful. That's the polite way of putting it, but there's no polite way to put what the neighbor caught on tape is. This is your current neighbor. Why is he threatening you and threatening your life in this video that we're about to see?
On numerous occasions, I had caught him, again, trespassing onto the property, throwing objects all over my lawn in an attempt to damage my equipment. So I had put up no trespass signs, and this is his response to those no trespass signs. Okay, so here he's just going by with the lawnmower trying to whip stuff onto your side. Yes, it's, you know, very typical of his behavior. I mean, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but the next video, let's play that one. This one is a bit more serious. Can we roll that tape?
Fuck off, you goofball. You own this shit? Oh, then fuck off. Go back to your mother and doesn't want you. Goofball. You need your fucking face. Come here, you cocksucker. I'll rip your fucking throat off. Yeah, you think you are. You don't own this property. I'll give you a go of your fucking leg, you fucking goof. Give you a go of your leg. You you're a cocksucker. Come here, I'll blow your fucking brain out.
Okay, again, apologies for the language on that tape, but Ian, that's what you're living with that sort of threat. How do you feel now that you still have a neighbor that's threatened your life living next to you? You got a neighbor that has, you say, threatened your property, trespasses on it, and now the guy that carried out an attack on your life had his conviction, his sentence cut in less than half. He's out less than a year after he was sentenced to an extra 2 years in jail just for the firebombing, and an extra 2 years for the wearing a mask, and 6 months for breaking probation. Randy Weaver's a guy with a long history of violent crime. All that together, how do you feel? Do you feel safe in your home?
Absolutely not. I cannot rely on the police for any kind of protection. I was in contact with them just recently, as a matter of fact, last week, when I found out that he had been released, and I was told that I will receive the same level of protection as other citizens in the city of Welland. And that doesn't make me feel comfortable because they have really done nothing to support me in the past.
I mean, I can't imagine that they could or would park a car down the street just to protect you. That would be going above and beyond. But you want to be able to get a permit. In the States, they're called concealed carry. Here, they're called authorization to transport. You want to be able to carry a firearm with you for your own protection. It's very rare. Have you asked the Niagara Regional Police for support in backing your application, or tell us how that process is playing?
Well, yes, I have asked them, and I was told that I'm not going to get one. I believe that I have just cause for having the right to carry, and I believe every Canadian who is qualified and definitely experienced with firearms should have a right to carry.
This is unreal, unreal. Ian, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming in today, and best of luck. Oh, just quickly, was it the Chief Firearms Officer or Niagara Regional that said you won't get the permit?
Niagara Regional.
Yeah. Not their call to make, though, right?
Pardon me?
Not their call to make?
I'm not sure. Somewhere in the process, they have to give some authorization that they cannot protect me, and I've been told by them that they cannot or will not.
All right, Ian, all the best. Stay safe, my friend. We'll chat soon.
Thank you.